Are you struggling to control your emotions? You're not alone. Emotional regulation, a critical aspect of our mental health, is all about how we manage and respond to our feelings. It's the ability to effectively manage and respond to an emotional experience. It's something we do every day, often without even realizing it. But for some, it can be a challenging task. Difficulties with emotional regulation can be a symptom of various mental health conditions. Yes, that's right. Conditions such as borderline personality disorder, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, autism spectrum disorders, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. They all can make emotional regulation a significant challenge. But don't fret. Understanding emotional regulation and recognizing its importance is the first step to managing our mental health better. So let's dive in and explore these conditions, shall we? Understanding emotional regulation is the first step to managing our mental health better. Follow along with our time-stamped key moments in the description below. We've broken the video down into chapters so that you can easily follow along or skip to a section that is of interest to you. First up, let's talk about borderline personality disorder. Also known as BPD, this is a mental health condition that affects how a person thinks and feels about themselves and others. This often results in difficulties in managing emotions and behavior, which can lead to a pattern of unstable relationships, a distorted self-image, and impulsive actions. BPD affects 2 in 100 adults, mostly young women. People with BPD often have other mental health conditions, including anxiety disorders, eating disorders, and substance use disorders. Causes of BPD can stem from neglect and emotional underinvolvement by caretakers, an extreme form of emotional invalidation. With BPD, emotions more intensely felt and for longer periods than most people do. A slight disagreement could lead to deep sorrow, anger, or anxiety that lasts for hours or even days. This heightened emotional response can be extremely overwhelming, causing a person with BPD to struggle with self-control. In addition to this emotional sensitivity, those with BPD also experience rapidly changing moods. One moment they could be feeling fine, and the next they could be gripped by intense despair. These mood swings can be incredibly exhausting, and they can make it difficult for a person with BPD to maintain stable relationships or a consistent sense of self. Now, when it comes to emotional regulation strategies, individuals with BPD often grapple with a deficit of appropriate ones and a surplus of maladaptive ones. That means they might struggle to use healthy coping mechanisms like deep breathing, meditation, or positive self-talk. Instead, they may resort to harmful behaviors, such as self-harm or substance abuse, in an attempt to manage their intense emotions. But here's the important part. BPD is not a life sentence. It's a condition that can be managed with the right support and treatment. This often includes therapy, such as dialectical behavior therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy, which can help individuals with BPD learn healthier ways to regulate their emotions and cope with distress. BPD can be a challenging condition, but with the right help and support, it's entirely manageable. And remember, if you or someone you know is struggling with emotional regulation, it's okay to reach out for help. There are resources available, and you're not alone in this journey. Next, we delve into the complexities of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, often abbreviated as CPTSD. This condition is frequently diagnosed in individuals who have repeatedly experienced traumatic events such as violence, neglect, or abuse. The trauma may be part of their distant past or a more recent occurrence, but the impact it has on emotional regulation can be profound and long-lasting. In understanding CPTSD, it's crucial to note that this disorder goes beyond the symptoms of traditional post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. CPTSD includes additional elements such as emotional flashbacks, a distorted self-concept, and difficulties with emotional regulation. So, what do we mean by difficulties with emotional regulation in the context of CPTSD? Well, those with the condition often grapple with self-calming when distressed, It's like being on a roller coaster of emotions, with the highs being very high and the lows plunging to the depths. And sometimes there's a chronic emotional numbing, a kind of autopilot mode where feelings are dulled and the world seems grey and lifeless. This emotional dysregulation can manifest in various ways. Some may find themselves chronically angry or irritable, others may swing between emotional states rapidly, and for others still, they may find themselves in a constant state of anxiety or depression. It's also important to understand that emotional regulation in CPTSD isn't just about the intensity of emotions. It's about the struggle to manage these emotions, to soothe oneself when distressed, and to regain a balanced emotional state. This is often because the tools and techniques that most people use to regulate their emotions may not have been learned or may have been disrupted by the trauma. Navigating life with CPTSD can be challenging, but it's crucial to remember, trauma is not your fault. You're not alone in this journey, and there are resources available to help manage CPTSD. Therapists, support groups, and self-care strategies can all play a part in managing these emotional regulation difficulties and leading a fulfilling life. Remember, trauma is not your fault, and there's help available for managing CPTSD. We're moving on to 3 more conditions that involve difficulties with emotional regulation. These are Disruptive Mood Dysregulation Disorder, Autism Spectrum Disorders, and Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Firstly, let's talk about Disruptive Mood Dysregulation Disorder, or DMDD. This condition is often diagnosed in childhood and is characterized by extreme emotional swings and intense temper tantrums. Imagine a roller coaster of emotions, with peaks of rage and valleys of irritability. The emotional responses are often disproportionate to the situation and can be triggered by negative emotions. This makes emotional regulation incredibly challenging for individuals with DMDD. Next, we have Autism Spectrum Disorders, commonly known as ASD. Emotional regulation can be particularly tough for individuals with ASD. They often experience a higher baseline level of negative emotions or irritability. It's like living with a constant undercurrent of emotional discomfort. This can make it harder to identify and understand other people's emotions, a crucial aspect of emotional regulation. Moreover, they can become easily overstimulated and might have difficulty in problem solving, adding another layer to their emotional regulation challenges. Last but not least, we have Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, or ADHD. This disorder is not just about inattention or hyperactivity, but also involves significant struggles with emotional regulation. Individuals with ADHD may have strong reactions to minor setbacks, feeling their emotions more intensely than others. Imagine feeling like a small obstacle is a giant wall. They may also have difficulty calming down and a low tolerance for frustration or annoyance. It's like their emotional thermostat is set a few degrees higher, making it harder to cool down when emotions heat up. Across these 3 conditions, the common thread is the difficulty in managing and controlling emotions. This can manifest in various ways, such as intense emotional reactions, difficulty understanding others' emotions, and challenges in self-soothing. Recognizing these symptoms is crucial, as it's the first step towards getting the help and support needed. It's important to remember that these conditions are not the result of bad behavior or a character flaw. They are real, diagnosable mental health conditions that require understanding, empathy, and professional help. If you or a loved one are experiencing these symptoms, consider seeking help from a mental health professional. Recognizing these conditions is the first step to getting the help and support you or your loved ones need. To sum up, emotional regulation is crucial to our mental health. It's the ability to effectively manage and respond to an emotional experience, and when it's compromised, it can manifest in various mental health conditions. We delved into 5 such conditions that involve difficulties with emotional regulation. First, we discussed borderline personality disorder, characterized by emotional sensitivity, heightened and changeable negative moods, and a struggle to find appropriate regulation strategies. We then explored complex post-traumatic stress disorder, often diagnosed in those who have repeatedly experienced trauma. This condition involves difficulty self-calming when distressed and chronic emotional numbing. We also touched upon Disruptive Mood Dysregulation Disorder, a childhood condition marked by extreme moods, intense temper outbursts, and strong behaviors in response to negative emotions. We discussed the role of emotional regulation in autism spectrum disorders. Individuals with this condition often have greater or more intense baseline levels of negative emotions, poorer problem-solving skills, and may find it harder to detect other people's emotions. Finally, we highlighted Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, where poor emotional regulation leads to intense reactions to small setbacks, difficulty calming down, and a low tolerance for frustration. These conditions are not uncommon, and it's essential to remember that help is available. There are many effective treatments and strategies to improve emotional regulation, from cognitive behavioral therapy to mindfulness practices and medication. If you recognize any of these symptoms in yourself or someone you know, don't hesitate to seek help. Reach out to a trusted healthcare provider, therapist, or psychologist. They can provide a formal diagnosis and guide you towards the right treatment plan. And if you found this video informative, consider sharing it with others. It might just provide the clarity someone needs to understand their struggles better and seek help. Remember, knowledge is power, and sharing this information could make a significant difference in someone's life. If you recognize any of these symptoms in yourself or someone you know, don't hesitate to seek help. Share this video to spread awareness, and remember, you're not alone in this journey. Like and subscribe to join us on a journey of discovery as we seek to understand the fundamental aspects of human behavior, emotions, cognition, and relationships.